Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Bearded Talk so far. Really cool news today. Our first interview ever with a buddy of mine named Bryan Minear. He is an amazing photographer out of Detroit, Michigan, and we've been friends just for 3 or 4 years. We met online, actually, through some other photographer friends and have just been following each other, have similar values, and it's just been really cool to watch his life and his career grow. Recently, Brian's Instagram following, mainly this year, has just been exploding from like 800 followers to, almost 20,000 followers. And he's sponsored by Fujifilm, which means he gets to play with all the new toys, and he's got a bunch of other sponsorships. And so I thought he'd be really cool to have a real life perspective. I asked him to hold nothing back in this interview, just about how to grow your Instagram following, whether you're a photographer or not. The principles that he says in this particular episode apply for almost any job: consistency and working hard. And I would just love to share that with you. So thanks for listening. Here's Bryan Minear. Let's get right to it. Awesome, Bryan. So thanks so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it. Dude, how are you?
I'm good. I mean, I can't complain. I've hit like 2 out of my most wanted to visit places list in the past like 2 months. So I'm pretty happy right now.
That's awesome, man. What places were those?
It was actually all in October. So first off was Smoky Mountain National Park, which sadly is ablaze right now, which is crazy, like seeing all the footage from that. And then Yosemite National Park.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I think I saw some of your stuff on Instagram from Yosemite, and it's just absolutely incredible. Awesome, man. So tell me a little bit more about what you're doing, currently, day to day. What's your day-to-day life look like?
Oh man, right now, day-to-day life is kind of insane. I have a full-time job still. I'm still kind of working through that. It makes a lot of sense right now, but the wife and I have been talking about, what the future looks like, kind of thing. So we're kind of thinking through and potentially planning for maybe me going back to freelancing. So day-to-day life is kind of crazy because I still, Monday through Friday go to a full-time job. So usually I'm up early and either taking care of a baby or trying to catch a sunrise on my way to work. I'll work a full day and then I come home, and now it's kind of tough because the sun has already set by the time I get on the road, but usually trying to shoot as much as I can on my way home as well. Come home to wife and a little 6-month-old baby boy, and hang out on Instagram and just try to do the family thing and try to keep up with freelance clients. And it's kind of a mess right now, honestly.
Totally understand those moments. So yeah, just to clarify, you have a full-time, like 9 to 5 job, and then in addition are freelancing, I guess, as much as possible. You have some really cool clients, I know, but is that basically what's going down?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's kind of like the past couple months has been really, really crazy. And there were several times when my wife looked at me and she was just like, you are just taking on way too much right now. But it's kind of a catch-22, because if I start, if the end goal is to get back to freelancing, I can't turn clients away because then I'm going to miss out on that business. And, it's just kind of one of those, it's just been one of those time periods where I had a lot of stuff going on and I just had to kind of keep up with it as best I could. And, just kind of hope that I came out with my sanity on the other end. But, the full-time job is tough because, my real passion is with photography. Even, I do a lot of freelance design stuff still on the side too, but my real, passion lately has been in photography, and whether that's just, shooting landscapes or shooting, lifestyle stuff for brands, or, that's kind of my goal moving forward. to do more of that stuff.
Right. What are some of the brands you've been shooting for recently, if you can talk about it?
Yeah, sure. Well, the cooler stuff has definitely been been on a couple jobs with GMC, so that's been cool. Me and my buddy at Lennon James on Instagram, Jim Lennon, he he brought me along the Smoky Mountain trip that I talked about earlier. Actually, he that was a GMC job, and he brought me on as an assistant for that. And then we kind of co-ran a job for them in Yosemite, and that one was kind of different because they usually kind of approach, once they have you in their sights, I guess they kind of approach you if they have a need for something that would be in your wheelhouse, like your style. But the Yosemite job, it was a trip that we had planned, and we were like, hey, it'd be cool if we could get some trucks, so we didn't have to pay for rental cars also, and, just make a little money. And so we approached them, and they got on board with that. And so that's one of the cooler ones. Obviously, it's weird to say, but I'm kind of sponsored by Fujifilm. So I do a lot of stuff for them. Like anytime they have a new camera coming out, I'll do, or like they did a co-branded bag with Donkey. Like they'll send me stuff and I'll shoot, lifestyle shots for them to use for advertising, marketing purposes. I do a lot of stuff for Movement, MVMT watches. Who else? Vanguard, which is tripods and camera bags. That was a real fun one. We kind of built into our Yosemite trip as well. They had timing couldn't have been more perfect. I've done some work with them in the past, but I approached them because I was like, hey, we're gonna be going to this just epic, classic, amazing place. Like, what can we do together? And it just so happened to line up perfectly with their new launch, like their new product launch. So we took a whole bunch of just sample product out with us and got to use it and really put it to the test, and then shot tons of video and photo content for them to use for the launch of their new products. So that's some. I mean, there have been more here and there. Those are just the ones that come to mind.
Sure. That's awesome, man. That's super cool. I love that the story about GMC and how you guys were kind of like approached them and said, hey, we're going out to this amazing place. And I know that that's kind of a key for your success and even my own. It's just sometimes pursuing it and like going after it, not being afraid to ask. Like I know for us, I was in Iceland back in August, and I just approached a bunch of car rental companies, and I was just like, hey, so I love Iceland. And people were talking to me about it, and they were all about it. And we were able to get like a free rental car and all that stuff. Yeah. So it was really cool. Awesome, man. So tell me a little bit more about your Instagram following, and, what were you at about a year or so ago? I feel like you and I have been friends for a few years, and when you started, or when I started following you, you were probably like, just got to 2,000, and right now you're almost about to break 20K. And so tell me a little bit about that, and what have been some of the spikes, and was there any work that you've done recently that like you could easily correlate to get back up to that?
Yeah, man. Instagram, anytime I ever preface talking about Instagram, I like to just say Instagram's so freaking weird. It's just like this anomaly of a place where I don't even understand half the time why anything happens. Me and my wife actually were just talking about this the other day because she had asked me how many followers I was up to. And I think I hit 10K in, I want to say, like April-ish. So I'm getting close to double that. And it's been however many months. Yeah, it was. I mean, so let me just go back to the beginning before I just kind of fumble through nonsensically.
No worries.
So really, the whole Instagram thing started for me when Instagram started. I followed this photographer. I don't know if you have ever heard of Cole Rise. Have you ever heard of him?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Cole Rise. Like, I was still am a huge Twitter guy. And back in the day, pre-Instagram, I don't even remember how I found Cole Rise, but I actually just had a really cool DM conversation with him, which I'll talk about too. But so anyway, following Cole Rise on Twitter, he's like teasing this beta cool app thing, and I just thought it looked cool, and so I'm following him. Like, when am I going to get to be able to try this out? Like, when is it going to be a real thing? And it turned out to be Instagram. And literally the day that they launched, I signed up. I found somehow, it was one of the, you find out what your Instagram ID is, which is actually like the number in which you signed up. I'm number 691 to sign up for
Wow.
Instagram, which was kind of cool, kind of nerdy, but kind of cool. But anyway, so right off the bat, like, I didn't really know what it was or how to use it. It was at the time where you didn't really have, like, you couldn't even embed photos on Twitter natively. It was all like TwitPic, and there were these third-party services. So my initial thought was, oh, I'll just use Instagram for my, stupid stuff that I want to embed on Twitter. So I just used it like everybody else did, posting pictures of food and just random stuff. So I didn't really use it to its full potential for a really long time. Not until, it was probably about 2016 now. I think it was towards the beginning of 2015. I was just like creatively like in a slump. It was winter here in Michigan, and winters here can be brutal, and you don't go outside, and it's just rough, and it takes its toll on your psyche. And I was just like, I feel like I could be doing so much more with like my creative abilities. So I decided, I had some friends that I had met that were doing Instagram stuff, and I was like, well, I could use it as kind of an outlet for creative stuff and also just to meet new people. And so yeah, that's kind of my thought process going into it, was I'm going to create something new every day and just kind of use it to keep my my creative tools sharpened and just see what happens with it. It was never really I want to grow a big following on Instagram and do this, this, and this. It was just kind of like a genuine, I want to get better kind of thing. So yeah, when I first started, I was like, I think I was right around 1,000, just under 1,000 followers when I first started back in, I feel like it was like February or March of 2015. And then just kind of dedicated myself to posting once a day. And it wasn't like one of the 365 projects or anything like that. I mean, if I missed a day because I was just busy or something, it's not like I beat myself up over it, but it was just kind of like that's how I kept myself accountable. And yeah, it's just kind of grown. I mean, I learned, and Instagram's changed like 500 billion times since then. And algorithms and timeline and how hashtags work and everything. But I mean, I think the coolest thing for me is just like, I've met some of my closest friends like that I talk with on a daily basis through Instagram. So it's pretty cool.
That's awesome. That's incredible, man. I remember actually seeing you like start post more often, and kind of the content changed from stuff from normal shoots and stuff that you were doing to you really made an effort to create every day. What are some of the ways that you made an effort to create every day? I know, personally, I've seen you used to go out every morning and stuff like that. What does that look like for you? Like, how are you executing that?
Yeah, sure. It's really tough, honestly. It's like, it got to the point where it was a grind. And it's tougher for me now because I have the baby, and it's just tougher to get out the door because I'm, trying to help my wife, and we kind of juggle back and forth while we get ready for work. And like I said, it now is tough because this sunrise and sunset times are so jacked up here that it's tough for me. But like when I was heavy into it, it was literally, I was out every morning, probably at least half hour, sometimes an hour before sunset, or sunrise, sorry. And then the same thing for sunset. I would come home, grab a quick bite, hang out with my wife for a little bit, and then head back out. And it just kind of became my norm. Weekends, I was always trying to find, new places to go. I was kind of new to this area too, because I grew up in Ohio. And I lived in Dallas for a little while, and then moved here. And I was kind of still fresh out of that, but I just kind of used it as an excuse to explore the area. And so, I would anytime I would have like a second at work, I'd be on Google Maps, just kind of like crawling the aerial view, trying to find cool stuff or cool parks or anything that I could find. So, I mean, it was really, really hard at first just to kind of get into it. And then once I kind of got my groove, it was cool. And I would end up just pretty much, I mean, I was always shooting, but it was not like I was coming away with, amazing shots every time. A lot of the times when I was going out, I was essentially scouting stuff like, oh, if I hit this, and I would use my app, the Photo Pills app that I use to, figure out where the sun's going to be on any given time of the year. Like, oh, I need to hit this time of year. I mean, it got to a point where I was looking at, oh, I found this lone tree in a field. I want to know what time of year the sun is gonna set behind it, so that I can get a shot of this sun, perfectly symmetrically coming down through the tree. So I got pretty nerdy with it there for a little while. Now, like I said, it's a little tougher. I'm kind of a little worn out on my area, so I'm branching out a lot more in the travels that I get to do, which is why I like working with these brands so much, because you get to create this cool content for them, but also in your downtime, I mean, you're just shooting stuff for you as well. So you get to build up kind of a little bit of a library, and it keeps things fresh.
Definitely. No, I feel like you've been posting a lot of Yosemite stuff recently, and it's just like every photo is so different and fun.
Yeah, I tried. I mean, when we were on the trip, I was kind of posting stuff from the trip, my favorites as I was shooting. It was an exhausting trip, but like any chance that I had service, it was so funny. We were all like, oh, we got a little bit of service. Everybody's got to post. But yeah, I try to space things out. I think today I posted something from Yosemite. Yesterday was Smoky Mountains. Day before that, and the day before that was Michigan stuff. So I try to keep it kind of, here and there. I don't like to stack things usually. I like to have, even when I first started Instagram, the year before, my wife and I had done a trip to London and Florence. And I mean, when I started posting to Instagram, it was like I had all these photos from, this international trip that we had that I hadn't even posted on Instagram. I think while we were on the trip, I was posting a few things here or there, but it was mainly like iPhone stuff, or like I would take a picture of the back of my camera or whatever, So there was a long time, even when I was ramping up the whole Instagram thing, where I was posting photos of Big Ben all the time and stuff like that. So I think it's just kind of like finding your groove. And then I kind of found and grew my style along the way. And yeah, it's just kind of grown into this, I don't even know, just it's kind of a fun thing now. I mean, honestly.
That's awesome. That's super cool, man. It's super exciting just to see, like, one, the content is really good. Your photos are incredible, and like I feel like because of your strategy, at least for the ones on Instagram, are more I feel like you take a decent amount of time on each one. Not necessarily doing crazy stuff or things that it doesn't need, but like I feel like each piece is, even that, I just called it a piece. Like each photo is like a work of art, individually, like of itself, and I love that. Especially the one recently where it was like the little carved out, like the little cutout of the mountains with the real ones behind it. That's super cool. So tell me a little bit more about, so you are, I think the term is an official Fujifilm X photographer. That's right. So tell me a little bit more about your relationship with them, and then also, just kind of how using their cameras influenced what you do.
So yeah, when I was a Canon shooter for a long time, really long time actually, and around 2011, I think it was late 2011, Fujifilm announced the X100, which was their kind of fixed lens, mirrorless. It was their first X series camera. And I remember I was a big fan of David Hobby and Zach Arias and those guys, and at the time, and they were all like, oh, check out this new camera. Again, Twitter, like me being a Twitter nerd, I was seeing this thing and everybody was talking about it just because it was retro and, it was mirrorless and it was small, but it was like gonna have great quality. It wasn't just a point and shoot and all this. So that really like kind of intrigued me. And I remember I was living in Dallas and at the time, and I was telling my wife, I'm like, I have to get this camera. It's so cool. Like something about it. I think it was the thing initially for me was just I came from shooting film. Like that's how I started in photography. And so just that natural inclination towards the retro styling and knobs and stuff really piqued my interest. So that's kind of how it all started with them. And so that they just kind of became my guilty pleasure camera. My Canons had become my workhorse kind of work cameras, and anytime I was shooting personal stuff, I started down this path with Fuji cameras, and they were, I don't know, they were just kind of like my escape for a while. So when we did our international trip that I talked about, I decided I'm only going to take Fuji cameras. Like I left my big 5D3s at home, and it was honestly the best decision that I could have made. So let's fast forward to 2015. It was literally the year that I started Instagram. So I started, posting stuff, and it was weird at the time because Fujifilm's kind of they're an international company like everybody, but they have specific branches. So it's, every region has their own social media channels. So the US, there was Fujifilm North America, but that's run by the Canadian branch. So they didn't really have a US division, so I never really knew what to tag. So I'm always tagging like Canada and the UK and, the ones that had the bigger followings. And finally on Twitter, they launched their Fujifilm US. Like finally there was a place for me, like an outlet to for US based ex photographers, not official, just people that shot Fujifilm stuff, to kind of, find each other. So I started tagging all my shots, and it wasn't maybe 2 months. No, it wasn't even that. It was maybe two or 3 weeks after they had started, all their Instagram and Facebook and Twitter channels, that I got an email from Fujifilm HQ. It was just like, hey, just reaching out. We love your stuff, and just wanted to get a little background on you. So I kind of talked them through what I just talked you guys through. Like, I started out with this. At this point, it was, I was on my 4th or 5th camera, and it's 5 years into using it. And at the time, I was using them as backup cameras for all my professional work, and I was contemplating jumping over completely and just getting rid of my Canon gear entirely. And so that's kind of how it started. Like we just started a conversation, and I started sending them stuff, like photos that they could use for social. And then it kind of got to the point where they were asking if they could license photos for, use for advertising and stuff like that. And just kind of grew from there. I had that kind of relationship with them for close to a year. And then earlier this year in March, so I had been probably dealing with them for 6 or 7 months. They reached out and were like, hey, we love your consistency and stuff. Would you like to represent the brand and be an official photographer? And I was like, heck yeah. I mean, I didn't know what it entailed, but it sounded awesome. So I jumped all over it, and yeah, it's been really fun. I mean, I get lots of perks and little things. I don't really get paid, but unless they want to license work and stuff like that. But yeah, it's been really cool.
That's awesome. That's super cool, man. It's so cool to see kind of a lot of people. I know you, Alaya Lacardi, and a few others are all about Fujifilm, and it's just really interesting, the landscape, pun intended, of photographers right now that are kind of switching over. And even me, like you were kind of the tipping point for me to even like, hey, I should like rent one of these cameras and try it. And the small form factor is just so attractive because I feel like if you don't love the tool you're using, it's very difficult to go out and be confident in what you're making. And so like, if your camera's smaller or more comfortable or your favorite lens, and, not that we don't work with tools that we don't enjoy, but it's, I don't know, I just felt like you were so pumped about Fujifilm, and then it's so cool to see them sponsor you. So I love that.
Yeah, it was honestly like kind of dream come true thing for me when it all happened. I mean, because for me, their stuff, their gear, whatever, everything that they had was what kind of reignited my flame for photography. I was so, I don't want to say I was burnt out. I mean, everybody kind of hits that point where you're just kind of like stuck in a rut, but their cameras are really what did it. I mean, at the time when I was kind of bouncing back and forth between Canon and Fuji stuff, I was shooting like a lot of portraits still, a lot of senior portraits, weddings. And so their cameras kind of marked this, I don't know, like own little personal renaissance for me where it was like, I don't need to do everything. That's where I decided, okay, maybe I'll go with the full-time job and I'll kind of still do photo stuff on the side, but only do the photo stuff that I want to do. Because I was freelancing, and you know how it goes. I mean, you kind of have to take a little bit of everything that comes your way just because you need that paycheck. So it got to the point where I was just like, I don't know if I want to shoot senior portraits anymore. I don't know if I want to do this anymore, or family portraits, or, you know, the stuff that that the passion wasn't there for. And so the cameras, as odd as it sounds, they kind of were, like I said, my escape, like where my real passion was like landscape stuff. So they were my cameras for that. And it just so happened that they're small and easy to carry around and, you know, all that fun stuff. But I really think like a lot of the style that I've developed, and never would have developed had I not, you know, been shooting with their system. So it was kind of cool getting to work. It is cool getting to work with them because I kind of feel like I owe them something, you know. I owe them at least repping their brand well because they've done so much for me even without intending to do it. So yeah, that's kind of how I look at it now.
That's amazing. I love that. Awesome, man. Well, I just want to ask 2 more questions. One would be, you know, what would be your advice to somebody looking to build a following on Instagram? I'd love to hear your perspective.
Yeah, sure. I'm going to reiterate that Instagram is like an anomaly. um, Lately, it has been really hard to grow a following on Instagram. And I mean, with everything that they've been changing and just things that they've been implementing, like it's anyone's guess as to what works. I mean, there were points when I was really into Instagram that I was really monitoring stats and when should I post and this and that, and I don't know, like they've changed so many things that it makes it really tough to kind of have a plan. I would say to anyone that is really trying to build a following, or at least kind of build a style, build a portfolio of work, because that's kind of how I view Instagram now, as my own little living portfolio of work, is just kind of find what you're passionate about and do everything and anything to attack it and figure it out. I mean, the cool thing that I love about Instagram, especially now, is how they've kind of made stories and the messenger and everything. It makes it so easy to communicate with people in your following. I love that about Instagram because all the time, well, as much as I have time for, I'm, you know, posting up like little mini tutorials or showing people like kind of here's the shot when I'm shooting it, here's the shot as it came out of the camera, and then here's the shot fully edited kind of thing. And people have like loved to see that stuff. And I feel like it helps other people grow. And I don't know, it's just fun to, I've never been one of those photographers that's kind of feels like he has to keep his secrets, you know, close to the chest, and otherwise, you know, somebody else is going to go out and steal all of your clients. But I don't know, I would say consistency is definitely key. You know, find what you're passionate about and just go after it. And even with your style, like as your style develops, and that's not necessarily to say that you have to edit every photo in the same exact way, but I mean, be like fearless and try new things, and don't be afraid to experiment, because a lot of what my style has become is just like screwing around in Photoshop or Camera Raw and figuring out like, oh, I can do this way, or if I don't have to use the contrast slider, if I use the black slider instead and take the contrast all the way down and see what happens there, and just kind of, I don't know, just kind of figure things out. Like I wouldn't necessarily say if you're in it to build a following, you're kind of already setting yourself up for failure, because it can be really frustrating. I mean, even when I was tracking stats and stuff at times, like there would be times where I was hitting like, oh, I can gain almost 1,500 followers in a month, and then the next month it would be down to 600, and I'm like, I feel like the stuff that I'm posting is great, or even potentially better than it was last month, because I'm an artist and I'm continuing to grow, but the following just isn't coming. And I mean, so if you look at it from that angle, you can get frustrated and kind of burn yourself out quick. So I think you need to look at it like, use it as a creative outlet, use it as an outlet to find like-minded individuals and really engage with people. And then just kind of the following ends up coming.
Definitely. That's awesome, man. 2 quick questions then. One, when is the best time to post on Instagram, or what time do you like to post?
So this is another one of those questions that I actually just had a conversation with somebody about this morning. Everybody is different. And I mean, some people have they've been posting at this time on this day for however long now, and they just kind of stick through it regardless of anything. I've tried a little bit of everything. I mean, for a while, I was trying to post. There have been times when I've posted twice a day. The majority of the time when I'm posting once a day. Sometimes I won't post on the weekends. Sometimes I will post on the weekends. I'm very lax about it. My current strategy is because Fridays are kind of weird because people like to go out Friday night, but I like to post on Fridays. I decided that I wanted to post in the morning, so I'm posting Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, not in the morning, sorry, at noon, and then Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturdays, I'm posting like around sunset, so that's kind of flexible depending on the time of the year. Right now, it's sunsets at like 5. So I'm posting between 6 and 7. So I'm pretty flexible with it. There's the thing, if you link up your Instagram account to your Facebook and you turn your account into a business account and you can get the analytics, it'll tell you, when your followers are online. Your followers are online and active these times during these days. Like I've tried that stuff and it doesn't work for me. The couple times that I posted when it said my followers were online and most active were probably the worst posts I've ever had. That may have been saying something about the posts themselves too. But yeah, so I don't know. I think you just kind of find whatever works for you and go with it. My thing is like I have a ton of people that follow me from like California. So half the time I'm posting, they're still asleep. So I mean, and especially with the non-chronological timeline now, it's just kind of a crapshoot as to who's going to see your post and who's going to have to go to your profile to see anything new.
Right, definitely. Awesome. So last question is what Instagram tools or apps, and this could just be like editing apps or whatever, are some of your favorites right now?
Yeah, sure. Editing apps. So, my process is pretty straightforward. Most of the time, I edit everything in Camera Raw and Photoshop. I don't use Lightroom. I do for some things, but it's rare. I just don't really like Lightroom that much. But so I'll export a photo from Photoshop and have it is pretty much done for the most part. And I'll airdrop it to my phone. Usually I'm using either the ViscoCam app, Afterlight, an app called Darkroom, or what's the other one that I use? There's one more. I can't think of what its name is right now. Those are kind of the prime 3 that I use to tweak my colors. I just feel like even I have a Retina MacBook Pro that I'm working on most of the time, so, and I feel like it's pretty similar to my iPhone screen, but I feel like even there are times when I get something and I'm like, oh, I love this. I'm not even going to have to touch it on my phone. And I send it to my phone and I look at it and I'm like, it just looks a little different than it did. So I'll kind of fine tune the last couple things. And sometimes I even have an app called Image Blender, which it lets you open up two photos and blend them together, kind of like Photoshop layers. So they have blending modes and everything. So a lot of times I'll edit a shot on my phone and get it to a certain point and be like, yeah, I think I kind of overkilled this a little bit. So I'll throw the original and then the over edited shot in Image Blender and then just pull back the opacity a little bit until I feel like, okay, that's doesn't look overkilled, but it adds enough to where, it kind of rounds out the edit completely. So those are kind of my go-tos. I'm a designer, so I'm an app nerd. So anytime there's a new photo app, I download it. I have probably 60,000 apps on my phone. I would say 10% of them are photo editing apps, but those are the 3 that I use the majority of the time.
Awesome. Dude, thanks so much for talking to us, and I appreciate just kind of hearing the perspectives both from, like how you started out, how do you manage work-life balance with a full-time job, and then also to all the stuff with Fujifilm and Instagram. And honestly, it sounds to me like it's just hard work, consistency, and really just putting yourself out there and trying to make stuff happen. So I love that, man. Thanks so much. Looking forward to having you on again sometime, man.
Yeah, man, anytime. It was a pleasure to be here. Thanks a lot for having me.
Awesome. Thanks, Bryan. And we'll link you up in the show notes and let everybody follow you. Well, that was Bryan, and I absolutely love his story and just the value of hard work, like an app that we all use for free, and he's hustling and using his tools to make things happen and getting some really cool opportunities. So it's always fun to see other photographers get success and be pumped for your friends. I met Bryan on Twitter, and we've just been internet friends for so long, and we have actual mutual friends that we've met that are actually I've met in person. And so just really cool, the value of Instagram and community and talking to people, and not just scrolling through and like, oh, that's a cool photo and you like it, and then just keep going. Like, find out about the people that you're following and dive deep into their lives. Other thing too, if you guys like this episode, I would love for you guys to go on iTunes and review us. That just helps people find more about it. And it's a little bit easier, I think, than sharing to Facebook. Or if you want to share it, go for it. But just leave us a review on iTunes. You can just go to itunes.com and help us out with that. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great week.